Welcome everybody back to the Ocho here at the Voice of College Football. We had a bunch of content for you today, and we're rounding it out with the Ocho, followed by Trojan Conquest Live for your must-see TV for the night. My name is John D'Adamo, and I'm going to be taking you through the next hour or so, maybe two. We'll find out. You can follow me at John D'Adamo on Twitter. And before we bring on our special guest, because it is USC week, real quick reminders to please go ahead and like this video. It just takes a second. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure to do that and hit the bell so that you get notified when we go live and we do content all across our network. And share this out with a friend. If everybody shares this with one person or on a Discord group chat or a Facebook group or whatever, that does so much. Just take that YouTube link, copy, and just paste it around the internet and social media. Also, if you would like to get your comment or question put to the top of the queue, go ahead and send us a super chat. So without further ado, we actually have a guest that a lot of you may know. From doing Trojan Conquest Live, Conquest Call-In Show, and the various USC shows that we do around here. Matt Zemek. Matt, it's great to have you.
It's great to be here. Just a full disclosure, my colleague here at the Voice of College Football and at Trojans Wire, Tim Prangley, he was set to join you. He got sick. Definitely was ready to fill in and make sure that you had Trojans Wire here on the Ocho.
Absolutely. So am I good to put this one up to remind everybody to check out Trojan Conquest Live every Monday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific?
Yep. And, I know, John, you're in the chats for a lot of those shows. Appreciate you, stopping in and getting some USC knowledge or perhaps some hot takery from me. Not so much Tim, mostly from me. But you're a great supporter of our Trojan Conquest Live show. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We tell everybody after the Ocho, just head on right over, hit that like button, get ready for the USC show. We try to do that for you guys and bring some of the Wolverine Nation and Big Ten Nation over there. But all right. So Matt, I had said, and some USC people called me crazy. A lot of other people called me crazy, but even some USC fans in 2022, when Caleb Williams was announced to be coming to USC, right? We already knew Lincoln Riley was coming. When Caleb Williams was announced, though, I said, you guys are going 11-1. Like, you're going 11-1. Because the schedule was really favorable. Nobody was really used to Lincoln Riley's system in that conference, at least all the time, right? They may have faced them in a bowl game or whatever the case may be. But they weren't quite, I think, ready for the scheme, and I kind of was banking on that. The defense was what it was. We knew there would be struggles, but I figured the year to really strike while the iron was hot was that year, and you did go 11-1. But obviously this year, I think people started adjusting a bit more in the conference to kind of the system. But I'd love to just hear your take. You've been kind of looking at this from the media lens and being in the rooms and all this kind of stuff to see how 2023 went. So I'd love to kind of get your thought on what was the positive and negative for this past season.
Well, let's start with just the fact that you accurately nailed USC winning 11 games in 2022, and it's part of calibrating expectations. That's a lot of this conversation, and so let's just kind of go through that. I thought that USC would go 10-2 in 2022. I think the consensus was 9-3. I think some people were saying 8-4, but I was 10-2. I did think the schedule was favorable, and I thought that Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, they were going to rock and roll, and they did. And of course, when we consider why USC went 7-5 in 2023, several things. One, you mentioned the favorable schedule in 2022. Like, that was red carpet, Oscar night treatment in Hollywood. In 2023, USC had to play Oregon and Washington, so you got to start there. Schedule was much tougher. USC avoided Oregon and Washington. in 2022. The toughest road game was Oregon State, and USC got past that game. USC did not have to leave Southern California in the month of November, played 3 true home games at the Coliseum, and then played at UCLA. It was almost a Trojan home game. Like the Trojans slept in their own bed the whole month of November in 2022. So that was very favorable for them. And it's going to be very different in the Big Ten. These long commutes coming our way. But anyway, like there were a lot of factors in 2022 which did not exist in 2023. And I think as we look now at the USC team and season in 2023 and why it went the way it did, you got to start at the offensive line. I mean, I know that Alex Grinch's defense wasn't good at the end of the 2022 season, so it's not as though what happened against Utah in the Pac-12 championship game and what happened against Tulane in the Cotton Bowl, that's what you saw for most of 2023. So like that didn't change. What did change was the offensive line. Yeah, and so people are going to think, well, the defense. Well, yeah, the defense was bad, but like we knew the defense was bad going in. It's just that we thought that the offense was going to continue to score 50 points pretty much every time, and that did not happen. Lost 34-32 to Utah, lost some other games with similar scores in that range, and that's because the offensive line was significantly worse. And the epiphany, the realization for myself and a lot of other people who follow USC football, Tim Prangley very much included, it was, wow, we really missed Andrew Voorhees and Brett Nealon and Bobby Haskins, those 3 offensive linemen. We missed them more than we expected to, because we thought that Justin Dietich at center and then Jonah Monheim was good, but like the other offensive linemen that USC got in the portal, Michael Tarquin, transfer from Florida, Emmanuel Pregnon, transfer from Wyoming, Jarrett Kingston, transfer from Washington State, those transfer portal pickups did not pan out. And it became apparent that, wow, we really missed Voorhees in particular, number 1. Also Nealon. Those guys really held the fort. They kept the offensive line together. That really it was, in my mind, the big difference. And, we're going to talk more about Lincoln Riley's play calling and Caleb Williams' performance and all of that. But Caleb Williams, as gifted as he is, as instinctively brilliant as he often is, he was having to scramble a lot. And yesterday in the Super Bowl, Tony Romo talked about this, and he was accurate that Patrick Mahomes' internal time clock got sped up by what the 49ers and Steve Wilkes were doing. That's a great way of explaining what happened to Caleb Williams in a lot of situations this past season. He got sped up, and also USC's receivers weren't getting open. That's another point of differentiation, that Dorian Singer was supposed to be the big dog, getting him from Arizona. And here's a story you might not know. USC beat Arizona 45-37 in a wild, Alex Grinch, no defense shootout in 2022. And Singer that day was playing for Arizona under Jedd Fisch, and he made several circus catches. And Caleb Williams was reported to have said, hey, Lincoln, can we get him for next year? And so they got him. And so we're all thinking, okay, this is the new Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison in 2022, Dorian Singer in 2023. We're good. We have that WR1 to take the top off opposing defenses and be that home run hitter who clears things out underneath for the Taj Washingtons, the more possession-oriented receivers, and he just distorts the field and has this back 7 running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Didn't happen at all. Dorian Singer, a total bust, could not get open. Some USC writers said at the end of the year when he left the program that Singer turned out to not be a good fit for Lincoln Riley's scheme. That Lincoln Riley's scheme didn't involve throwing jump balls at the level or frequency that Dorian Singer preferred. And I just had to stop myself. What scheme is dependent on throwing jump balls? That doesn't sound like scheme. That just sounds like going to Vegas and going to the roulette wheel.
Yeah.
That's not a scheme. That's just having faith and trust in a player. That's not a scheme. So like that raised some red flags for me. Like if Dorian Singer himself and Lincoln Riley, when having conversations with Dorian Singer, was feeling that, hey, we know you're great at making contested catches. We're going to rely on you to do that. If that was the conversation, that was not the right conversation to have. It's, can you get open the way Jordan Addison did? That should have been how that conversation unfolded. So Caleb Williams did not have nearly as good pass protection as he did in 2022. He didn't have nearly as good a leading wide receiver in 2022. Keep in mind that Mario Williams just faded into the background. Like he was a huge disappointment as well. So not just the WR1 with Singer being a huge downgrade for Madison, but Mario Williams was supposed to step up and be better. Did not happen. So you really had the receivers and the offensive line taking significant backward steps. And so while people are going to talk about the defense, and of course, you can't avoid talking about the defense, but I don't think a lot of people really appreciate just how significant the decline was for USC's offense. You didn't have that automatic consistency. You didn't have that expectation against good teams that, oh, USC's putting up 40 points. Because you did have that expectation in 2022. You did not have that expectation when USC went up against a reasonably good team and a reasonably good defense. I think the only other point to make, John, as I wind up this what did we learn answer to your question, is that the first half of the 2023 schedule was cream puffy. San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, Arizona State, first 4 games out of the chute. Like, you're not going to learn much of anything going against those 4 opponents. And Arizona State actually played hard, but Arizona State had over 10 offensive linemen get hurt last year. It was an absolute mash unit in Tempe, and Kenny Dillingham did a great job with what he had. But still, the September was just Cupcake City. And in retrospect, it probably would have been really good for USC if there had been one really significant test early in the season as a wake-up call, as a bucket of cold water to tell that team, whoa, this is how much work you need to do. And I think that they cruised on their talent in those first 6 wins, and then they got to the Notre Dame, Utah, Oregon, Washington 4-game gauntlet, and they were overmatched, and the confidence level and the awareness of where we stand as a team and how we measure up, they were playing catch up. They got punched in the mouth at Notre Dame. It became apparent they were not nearly as good as advertised. Morale plummeted, and that just had a snowball effect from which this team could never recover.
Do you put any of that on Dennis Simmons and the pass, you were mentioning the wide receivers and the issue there, the fact that there seemed to be not an emergence of a massive wide receiver 1 answer for 2023. I mean, it sounds like a bit of a systematic problem that these players that have been touted and everybody was excited about them coming in, well, seems like they're underwhelming. Do you think that was a coaching issue?
I think it was really just the wrong fit. I think during the expectations of how Dorian Singer was going to fit into this offense, I think this was miscalibrated from both sides, the player and the coaching staff. I think that was just a bad evaluation, because you look at Dorian Singer and how he makes plays and how he did make plays at Arizona in 2022, and how can you compare that to Jordan Addison? Those are 2 very different styles of playmaking as a wide receiver. And so I just thought, hey, the dude makes catches, so he's catching passes from Caleb Williams. Of course he's going to be good. I'm going to take the L there. I'll admit I was wrong, and I did not make a good evaluation. I just looked at Dorian Singer's highlight reel and thought, hey, Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams can make this work. But it turned out, you know what? You actually need a certain kind of guy to open up defenses. In terms of Dennis Simmons, the wide receiver coach, John, really good question. He did some really good work developing Brendan Rice and Taj Washington. So that tells me that actually Dennis Simmons knows what he's doing in terms of player development. but like Mario Williams, his work ethic, he had the case of the dropsies. He just couldn't turn the corner. I think it's more about individual fit and how certain individuals responded to pressure and changing dynamics. I mean, Jordan Addison is a winner. We saw, like, he went right into the pros, did great with the Vikings. I mean, it's too bad we didn't have a. I mean, you're a Michigan guy, so you might be a Lions fan. You might be happy that Kirk Cousins got hurt, because that certainly helped the Lions. But
it's complicated.
Regardless, just from a pure evaluation standpoint, it's too bad that we didn't get a full year of Jordan Addison and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I mean, Addison was good under those very limited circumstances, with Minnesota digging into, going like 4 deep at quarterback, going to Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins, and Addison was still making plays. So, like, he's a dude, he's a dog, and USC did not have guys to replace him. I don't know if that doesn't strike me as a Dennis Simmons issue, precisely because of what he did with Brendan Rice and Taj Washington, who had very good seasons. Taj Washington could be like the next Amon-Ra St. Brown, that possession receiver, a slot guy, the guy you turn to on 3rd and 6. He's going to get that 7-yard pass to lock down a playoff win. I could see Taj Washington being that kind of guy. He certainly has comparable speed, but I can also see how his lack of size will cause him to be underestimated the way St. Brown was. St. Brown, he went outside the top 100, if I'm not mistaken, in the draft. Like, he was dissed. He was not treated the way he probably expected to, and probably not the way his talents indicated, what was possible for him. Taj Washington could be the next Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Well, let's see how it goes. But sometimes we think one thing, it turns out to be the other. We've had a lot of that going on with USC, but I'm going to trust your judgment on that one. So obviously, we always ask most concerned and most excited, right? We start off with the spoon, the medicine, and then we get the spoonful of sugar. We go the opposite direction. But so just from 2024, what you've seen, from putting the staff changes, the transfer portal, all that kind of stuff. Is there anything that concerns you for 2024?
Well, on our Trojans Wire shows at the Voice of College Football, both with Mark Rogers on Monday nights and our call-in show with Tim Prangley on Fridays, the theme that I keep raising is that this is a prove-it year for offensive line coach Josh Henson. Now, again, people are going to say, Matt, why aren't you talking about defense? That's where USC sucked last year. Here's the thing. I love this defensive staff, and I think that USC is going to make dramatic improvements in player development with Eric Henderson as defensive line coach and co-defensive coordinator, Danton Lynn, some say Deanton Lynn, as the main, he's going to be calling the defensive plays, coming over from UCLA, where he took pretty average pedestrian talent and whipped it into, an upper tier defense in the span of 1 year. Like, he didn't need 2 years. He just needed 1. And he took Chip Kelly's groceries and made it into a gourmet meal in Westwood. So that's very impressive. And then Lincoln Riley's able to pull a multiple national champion FCS head coach, Matt Entz, from North Dakota State, and he convinces him to come to Los Angeles to be linebacker coach and a defensive assistant. And he convinces a defensive coordinator, Doug Belk, at Houston to be secondary coach. See, that's the thing. USC has a defensive staff of guys who could all be a defensive coordinator, and they're position coaches. Like, they took demotions, not in terms of the quality of location. Like, USC is a Cadillac location, but you have a head coach going to linebacker coach. You have a defensive coordinator going to secondary coach. Lincoln Riley convinced these guys to be position coaches when they've been either head coaches or coordinators. How many other staffs can make that claim? And here's the other thing for people who don't follow USC all that closely. In the Holiday Bowl, Alex Grinch was long gone. He got fired in early November. Also, Dante Williams, the secondary coach, was long gone. He went off to Kirby Smart and Georgia. So they had nothing to do with Holiday Bowl game planning or preparation. And so just not having Alex Grinch and Dante Williams around, you figured, okay, USC might be a little bit better just in terms of addition by subtraction. But who had a central role in the preparation, game planning, and position coaching for that game? Taylor Mays, former great USC safety, who was a defensive analyst. He was elevated to temporary secondary coach for that game. He basically was replacing Dante Williams. The secondary, which was the most disappointing group on that defense, like the size of the linebackers and defensive line were really good, but the secondary was the worst. That was the worst position group during the regular season, and that group made a quantum leap in the Holiday Bowl against Louisville. The tackling, something that didn't exist for the regular season. We saw actual competent tackling, and guys knew their assignments. They knew what to read. They knew where to go. That was Taylor Mays. And so Taylor Mays has, at least to this point, he hasn't left for another job. Like he's a rising star in the business. USC has, by all accounts, kept him on staff as a defensive analyst. He'll be helping Doug Belk coaching up the secondary. I mean, this is a rock star defensive staff in my mind. So I am not worried about the quality of coaching on that side of the ball. If there is a single coach on this USC staff that I'm worried about, so that brings us back to what I'm concerned about, it's Josh Henson. So he did a great job in 2022, but he inherited Andrew Voorhees, Brett Nealon, Bobby Haskins, those three road warriors who were so vital to Caleb Williams winning the Heisman Trophy. It's why he took the whole offensive line with him to New York for the Heisman ceremony. Not having those three guys in 2023, USC's offensive line fell off significantly. And so Josh Henson is basically batting 500. He's batting 50%. Now in baseball, batting 500 is good, but in football, if you're batting 500 in terms of one really good season and one not very good season, that will raise questions going into year 3. And so Josh Henson, both in terms of the guys he brings into the program and in terms of how he actually coaches the guys up on Saturdays, he's a mystery. I'm not saying he's bad, but he's a mystery. Sure. He's an unproven entity. He's had his good moments. He's had his bad moments. And so with Miller Moss replacing Caleb Williams, Miller Moss had an amazing Holiday Bowl, but that's one game. And one game does not mean you're a superstar. So Miller Moss needs his offensive line to be great, and we have no idea here at USC if this 2024 offensive line is ready to be great. My colleague Tim Prangley, who appears with me on the Mark show on Mondays and on our Colin show on Fridays, he's really big. He's bullish on this new offensive line. A lot of underclassmen who are going to grow into their roles, be better. But I need to see it. Like I'm not just going to assume that these young guys are going to be home run hitters. We need to see it, and that's Josh Henson. And so I think with the defensive staff being so good, I think we're going to see a good USC defense. I'm not going to say great, but it's going to be good. Like it's going to be competent. That alone is going to make USC a lot better than it was under Alex Grinch. It's the offensive line, which is the real key piece of the puzzle. Because if you have the offensive line in place, then Miller Moss has time to survey the field. Then Lincoln Riley's play calling and play design will be able to have their full intended effect, and it's going to all come together for USC.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, people, I think surface level, they look and they see, well, Lincoln Riley's doing the offense. Lincoln Riley's doing the play calling. But you have a guy who's putting all the pieces together, coaching up the O-line. So I definitely see how that could be concerning because, Lincoln Riley needs to focus also on being head coach. And that's been a big debate right over at Ohio State, which we'll talk about later in the show. Ryan Day had to step away from the play calling because, and running the offense because he needed to take a wider look. So he needs help. He can't do it all.
No question about it. And so like that is the hinge point on this USC staff. And I think one other thing needs to be mentioned, John, here on the Ocho at the Voice of College Football. And that is that Benny Wiley is USC's strength coach. He came with Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma. And, Alex Grinch preferred like a speed defense philosophy. He liked a finesse defense. He valued speed, not so much bulk and physicality. So there's a really big question and tension point at USC. Was Benny Wiley just merely giving Alex Grinch what he wanted, or was Benny Wiley doing the kinds of things that aren't producing real physical behemoths, real tough physical players? Because Alex Grinch is out of the picture now, the offensive line might be the unit which really determines whether Benny Wiley's strength and conditioning regimen at USC is hitting the mark or whether it's woefully inadequate. And for people who followed Oklahoma during the Lincoln Riley years, Riley's first year was his best one in 2017. He had a strength coach named Jerry Schmidt, but then Lincoln Riley brought in Benny Wiley for 2018. And Oklahoma was still really good in 2018 and 19, made the playoff both of those years, but it was never as good as it was in 2017 with Jerry Schmidt being the strength coach. And so people at Oklahoma will tell you Benny Wiley isn't nearly as good a strength coach as Jerry Schmidt or a lot of the other top strength coaches across the country. 2024 is a prove-it year for Benny Wiley just as much as it is for Josh Henson on the offensive line.
Yeah, and I've been talking now that I've been diving more into this, whole Big J journalism thing and talking to some players and everything, really learning how the strength and conditioning coach is really like, probably the second coach that they answer to and the coach that they usually answer to on a day-to-day basis. So to make sure that that's locked up, that's so important to get the right piece in place there. So hopefully we'll see how that goes for this year, and if things improve on all fronts. So I want to make sure you have some time. I know you have a busy life. You have to go cover some more stuff. I think there was a basketball situation going on. I don't know anything about shooty hoops, but apparently that's going on. So I want to make sure you have time to go do that. But I do want to make sure you get final thought, and if people are living under a rock, where they could possibly find you on the internet.
Yeah, well, my final thought is just with Danton Lynn as defensive coordinator, you're probably going to see a Ravens type scheme, and at Michigan that the Ravens type scheme is all the rage. It's produced those rock star results. And in
4-2-5, we love the 4-2-5 over here.
And I think the only other final thought to mention is that what's Michigan's best position group? Defensive line, and that goes up against USC's most uncertain position group, the offensive line. So that's a reason for Michigan fans to feel very confident when USC comes up to Ann Arbor in September on Fox Big Noon Saturday. In terms of where you can find me, so Trojans Wire on Twitter, trojanswire.usatoday.com, covering USC athletics. And of course, just visit our shows Monday night with Mark Rogers, and Friday night with Tim. That's where you can find us. And John, you're just doing a heck of a job here at the Ocho, and it's been great fun to be on with you.
Absolutely. And before you leave, I'll put this up on the screen in honor of you and Tim, and we'll continue the campaign to get Reggie Bush's Heisman.
Bless you, John. Bless you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, Matt. We'll let you go, and I'll be watching in a couple hours.
All right, and be sure, folks, to subscribe, like, and share the Ocho and the Michigan channel with John here at the Voice of College Football.
I appreciate that a lot. Thanks, Matt.
All right, thanks, John.
All right, so that was fun, and we thank Matt, who obviously is a regular, participant here. Hosts multiple shows, The Voice of College Football, Trojan Conquest Live, Conquest Call-In Show. He's the editor of Trojans Wire. He does it all, and he still was able to carve out an entire half hour to spend it with us here at the Ocho at the Voice of College Football. So we appreciate that. We have some topics to cover today, and I do have a couple of people ready to go for panel. But before we do that, please make sure when you're doing your shopping on Amazon to go ahead and use that link in the description section of every video to do that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, And of course, we have tremendous merch that you can check out here at the Voice of College Football merch store. It's products for the entire family. We got Valentine's Day in a couple days. Hey, maybe there's something green here for St. Patrick's Day. You never know. But you've got the mugs are doing very well. They're selling very well. We've got the flag is doing well too. Everything up here at the top is selling the best. Then we have hats and just things for everybody here. So check it out. Go to the merch store, Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, and get yourself something. Okay. Without further ado, we're going to bring on our panelists today. We're going to start out with the Big Ten representative here, one of our reasonable Buckeyes here at the Voice of College Football. We got Sean Garner in the house. Hey, Sean.
Hey, John. Finally got my laptop working again. Don't need to use any janky data plan to connect
That's
to you
right.
Yeah,
Hallelujah for that.
Get to see my beautiful face in full 4K or whatever.
It's very exciting. I think I don't know if we've sprung for the 4K yet here. I think we're at 1080. I think that's right. And we're up, you one mountain at a time. And we also, of course, have Double J is here. Jackson Johnson, host of the Jacksonian, resident marketer for Voice of College Football extraordinaire. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Just get ready for some. Well, I'm just glad that everything's all over with the Super Bowl. Now we can get ready to focus on what really matters, the off season.
Yeah. Gotta love that here at the Voice of College Football. And, we always start with our follow-up discussion from what we just heard. And if we learned anything from the great Matt Zemek, who many of us watch every week on the various shows. But, I don't know if you picked up any morsels from that or any hope or issues you might have with USC in 2024. Sean, we'll start with you. Anything that you picked up?
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole point's going to come down to how the coaching staff can develop these players this season. How much of an improvement does the Anton Len make?
Right.
On the offensive side of the board. I don't know. This team was it's been disappointing under Lincoln Riley. Not only have they had the results but not been that great, but the recruiting hasn't been like really elite either since then, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But better fundamentals, better coaching should at least make the defense competent. And is the offense able to maintain, enough of a high level? Because, there's a chance the offense takes a step back now, too. We don't really know what Miller Moss is at quarterback. I was looking up their depth chart right now on our lads, and currently USC does not have a right tackle listed on that depth chart.
Oh. Didn't mention. Yeah, I forgot to ask that question. Holy crap! That's maybe they have people listed as tackle or listed as just general O linemen, and they'll probably assign somebody.
They have a total of 9 O linemen listed on the roster, which sounds seems bad. I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure they have more, but I don't know. There are some structural issues at USC that I think it's going to keep them from competing for championships for the next couple seasons, for sure.
Yeah. Matt Zemek mentioned Josh Henson, who is technically offensive coordinator, even though Lincoln Riley's doing some of that with play calling, and he runs the O line. So Zemek mentioned that as a point of maybe concern that the O-line, took a step back last year, and maybe Josh Henson being the coach he's most concerned about. So we'll see kind of what happens there.
Yeah, and it seems like they're going to have to do something in the portal at least to shore up the depth on this O-line, because this does not look workable going into the season.
Jackson, what do you think?
I think USC, I mean, they need to fix that O-line. It's like you guys said. But I do think it's going to be great seeing USC start off their era in the Big Ten against Michigan on September 21st. But that first home game against Wisconsin, that's going to be a great one. But the season opener against LSU is going to be fun. Because, I mean, LSU doesn't exactly have much of a defense. But
what's the over-under for that game?
I'm not sure.
I'll tell you this: I think if they played last year, 50 points would not have won that game on either side.
Like 93.5 over, something like that.
Oh man, it's gonna be fun. I still can't believe we're gonna be calling USC Rutgers a Big Ten conference game. I mean, who'd have thought that happened 5 years ago?
Yeah, no, that's going to be something. I'm excited for the game against the Michigan USC game. It's going to be fun, and I like the fact that just with the addition of these extra teams, now you're going to have more marquee matchups at each time. There's going to be at least one good matchup at the noon time slot, the 3:30 time slot, the night, the 6, the 7 time slot, and then you've got your West Coast. So you've got more reasons to watch Big Ten football now.
True. I mean, we don't have to watch Maryland Purdue on NBC anymore. That can get relegated to Peacock.
Or Peacock.
And we
yeah,
can
how
have,
about Peacock?
And we can have SpongeBob and Patrick call UCLA Rutgers on Paramount Plus.
Yes.
That's going to be awesome right there.
Well, we do have another special guest here joining our Ocho panel. Friend of the network. We got Will ND here in the house. Hey, Will.
What's up, everyone? Excited to talk some Big Ten.
Will.
Yeah. And I don't know if you heard any of Matt Zemek, but he came by to give his take on USC, and you mentioned here Henson on the hot seat. So do you think this is put up or shut up year for him?
Put up or shut up. We need to see improvement in that O-line. Like the veterans in that O-line in 22 were great, but those guys left, and the guys that replaced them in 2023 weren't great, and that was the difference between the two Notre Dame USC games. Like we couldn't get after Caleb enough, and when we sent our linebackers, they looked silly, but we got a lot of pressure, especially with. I mean, pretty much everyone got pressure from the D-line. I mean, it was just like a free range at Caleb that whole game, and so and he had a lot more success in 23 against USC. So I think that's if SC's O-line improves and Henson saves his job, I think SC can make the playoff, but. I mean, it'll be tough. I'm not totally sure even if their O-line's good. But
honestly, I said this to Tim at least on one occasion. 2022, that's your year. You got to hit the playoff because once you hit the Big Ten, it's going to get harder. And that was the year I thought for them to make the playoff. But there you go. You never know, and I do think that the defensive coordinator hire was a good one, and running a Ravens style defense. If I'm assuming it's the 4-2-5, to kind of take over for Alex Grinch, that should be pretty solid. But we'll go.
I think Miller will be better than people think. I mean. He was still a pretty highly rated quarterback coming out. I mean, he wasn't a 5-star, but he was like a pretty high 4-star. So I think Miller will do well. It's all about that O-line for me.
Yeah, he's not a Rudy coming in at quarterback here. It's not like
I mean, that's what they made. That's what like the media made it seem like.
Oh, of course, absolutely. I was just this USC lifer who found a way to pay to get in, or like stop. No, that's not what he is. And I mean, like he had a brilliant performance against a very good Louisville defense. I mean, that Louisville defense was very solid. And
I thought it was good. It was a great performance. And I also thought Lincoln Riley, and I didn't get to this, and I know Matt had to leave, but I actually thought that Lincoln Riley play called better for Miller Moss than he did for Caleb Williams. It just felt like it flowed, and it felt like he was playing to his strengths instead of just like, hey, go be Superman. No, like here's some, here's some out routes. Here's some, throwing to the tight end a little bit, getting him in rhythm so that he could deliver on that bowl game. I thought it was a better play calling job than he had been doing.
Yeah. I mean, you simplify the game a little bit more sometimes for your first time quarterback. And, especially these, like a big problem with some of these like really genius high IQ guys have is they can really outthink themselves. I've accused Ryan Day of that at times in the past. Like, okay, you know what? You can, I know the game backwards and forwards, and you want to show off, flex your creative muscle, but that's
Jet
not always
sweep.
the most. That's not always the best route.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a time for getting really creative. I think that time is probably you're playing Georgia in the playoff game, and you bust out some crazy stuff, and that's the type of game where you need to do that, right? But it's not. You gave us a great segue, by the way, Sean, because we've had some coaching moves in recent days, and it actually concerns me, and I've told Buckeyes this, that if Chip Kelly got hired as the offensive coordinator for Ohio State, Michigan Wolverines should sound the alarm bell. And the reason is because I actually believe that Ryan Day was not going to trust Bill O'Brien to just be the head coach of the offense. I don't think that that the trust was there. Meanwhile, Chip Kelly, Ryan Day was his quarterback at New Hampshire. He did 2 years as Chip Kelly's quarterbacks coach. And I actually believe Chip Kelly's one of the few people on the planet that Ryan Day actually would trust to run the offense. So what do you think about that, Sean, just in terms of what Chip Kelly could really bring to the table?
I think Chip Kelly is one of the most innovative, most important minds to college football the last 20 years. And I think, his, coaching tree proves that, he's building a tree that's just like a Mike Leach. Things, revolutionized the game. I don't think like the Oregon offense.
No.
Do you guys think they'll run it more? Do you think Chip will? Because I felt like Chip liked to run it more than Ryan.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think he'll use a little bit more of the RPO and the zone read QB running game, especially with Howard in there. Basic concepts of the RPO. You basically have to is designed to take advantage of how the defense is playing you. And, if you get a light box, that's the time to run it. And if the safety's crashing, if they're coming down, then you hit them over the top with it. And one of the main problems I've had the last couple of years, why I think our running game hasn't been effective, is we've just been so static, so predictable, and running it in such inopportune situations. People say, it's the O-line problem. Well, you know what? Like, the O-line can't block 8 people. That's the problem a lot of the times. And I think Chip is just, the way he creates with pre-snap motion and execution of these RPO schemes. Defenses can't sell out to stop it like that. And that will give, the two fantastic running backs just so much opportunity, to create and to exploit. And I'd be interested to see, like, does he use both of them on the field? As he's been real creative with his personnel packages in the past. So, and Trayvon's a great receiver. Like they flex him out all the time. He can definitely come in the slot. You can line him up out wide. You can do a lot of stuff. Chip Kelly can probably do a lot of stuff with both of them on the field. And yeah, you have two guys like that, you probably want them on the field.
Yeah, with the loss of Marvin Harrison Jr., you've got to have some innovation in terms of the the pieces that you do have. Run game, that adding more of the zone read, like Fisherman's mentioning. I think that's all probably part of the equation here, because the quarterback, the Kansas State Will Howard, right? We don't. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think he's Justin Fields. I don't think he's C.J. Stroud. He's probably better than McCord, but
he can be like a Colin Klein, Tim Tebow type, like good enough in the passing game. Probably not going to bust off like 50-yard run, like just you got to worry about him housing it every time. But he's a strong runner, and I mean, like, so it's not even a given that he's going to win it. Devin Brown's going to be there in the spring, and they're going to compete for it. And Devin Brown's also a fantastic athlete who you can use in the running game. Really, I mean, all of the five quarterbacks they have there, I mean, they're all pretty athletic. You can use them all in that kind of role.
Yeah, Jackson, you dealt with the outgoing offensive coordinator from Ohio State, Bill O'Brien, of course, recently Alabama offensive coordinator. Do you think that Ohio State just leveled up?
Oh yeah, they leveled up big time. Because I mean, it's like you said. Bill O'Brien and Ryan Day working together, that would have been a dogfight. So, I mean, I think Ryan Day dodged a bullet. And plus, I can't help but feel like the Buckeyes are going all in for 2024, especially with this hire. But that's what I'm thinking. I mean, the schedule's a little bit easier. I think they can pull it off, possibly. I think they can end that streak against Michigan, but the question is who they're playing in the Big Ten title. I'm not ready to say yet because I gotta get a read on everybody else first.
Well,
I mean, I don't think it'll be interesting because I was watching some Mark today, and I think it's interesting that like Chip was his head coach and like was his mentor, and now he's his offensive coordinator. Like that's the one thing that might have. There may be some awkwardness there. Like Chip might not want to listen to what Ryan Day has. Like he might just want to do his own thing, and there might be some clashing there. That's my biggest concern. But I don't know. I mean, I think this is a home run for the Buckeyes. Like the O-line has to be good enough for it to all to work out. That's the biggest concern.
That definitely is the issue of the offseason.
Oh yeah, I remember that conversation. That's the exact conversation I remember John and JR had on last Monday's edition of the Ocho, and as to whether will this work out. That's going to be the question there. Can the mentor work with the protege? Can he handle working for the protege? That's going to be the con. But other than that, seems to be fine.
Was a good point by JR. Yeah. Like, sometimes those things don't work out, but I'd say, I don't know. I don't think Ryan Day would be bringing him on unless he felt confident that it could work out, the dynamic.
I'll tell you this, though. I do think Chip Kelly is sort of at peace with his place in the football world. I don't think he's super ambitious, wants to move up, wants to become a head coach of any sort in the future. I think he's, he wants to still be around the game, but find, something, a place in the game that, doesn't take so much of a toll on him as being a head coach in a Major 5 program. So, I mean,
Yeah.
So there can be some ego involved still eventually. Like
Sure.
I'm sure they'll, and they should clash, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, that's part of it.
have,
Yeah, that's absolutely.
you want to have minds that, you know, can differ and can actually have some conflict. That's actually a very helpful creative force. But this is not somebody who's going to overshoot his bounds or going to feel bitter that he's, you know, not in the game anymore, because he could have been in the game, right? I mean, he left a head coaching job to be there.
He literally could have still been head coaching UCLA if he wanted to be. He wasn't fired or anything.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like you expect to see head coaches leave group of 5 teams to be a Power 5 coordinator.
Sure.
But Chip Kelly leaving UCLA to be an offensive coordinator in that same conference in the Big Ten, I've got a lot of questions for UCLA. I mean, it's not good. I can tell you right now. They had plenty of chances. I mean, they've had plenty of chances to right this wrong. They had a chance to go, okay, Chip, you got your ass handed to you by California, 36-7 in the final Pac-12 game. You're gone. We're going to go for Jonathan Smith or Jed Fish. Okay, we can't go for Jonathan Smith. We're going to try for Jed Fish. They could have done that, but they didn't. They blew that opportunity. I mean, there's a reason why you heard fans and everyone that was associated with UCLA sitting there going on Twitter, Instagram, and all kinds of social media platforms going, hey, read the room, Martin Jarmon. Read the room. I got to tell you, the future is not bright for the UCLA Bruins. I mean, there's a reason. I've got Indiana and Minnesota above UCLA, and they're barely
there it is.
And Rutgers and Purdue.
This is the Jackson Johnson prognostication right here of everything going on. I have to. There was a Buckeye podcast I was listening to earlier today, and they were saying that, you know, Ryan Day was kind of missing the Kevin Wilson type person who had the coaching experience, who could push back against some of the things, some of the ideas, or, you know, offer a competing or a different perspective, and that he was kind of missing that this year. So Sean, do you think that that Chip Kelly will kind of fill that Kevin Wilson role as kind of being that experienced coach that can push back and all that?
Oh, I definitely think so. I definitely think he can. And also something that might be missing is even if the offensive coordinator isn't calling the plays, they're still mostly running the film sessions with the offensive players. They're still doing a lot more than the head coach is, you know, in the off-field stuff. So you want to have someone out there that can really teach the principles, teach the fundamentals. And I don't know necessarily that they had that last year. Brian Hartline may have been in a little over his head in that.
Yeah.
No, he's not, you know, I mean, he was a receivers coach for, you know, 4 years, and, you know, the offense, yeah, I mean, the offense wasn't as technically sound, wasn't as fundamentally, you know, good as it was the couple years before. So that's that definitely could be it's great to have somebody in there that you trust, that you think can actually run a room and run a practice.
I hope
before
what was that?
Yeah, go ahead. Before we go to UCLA and Deshaun Foster, I do want to bring in a friend of the program, Minnesota Dave, who is calling in from an anonymous location in Minnesota over there. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm on the St. Paul campus today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on Chip Kelly?
Jim Kelly.
Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly.
Okay.
Just became Ohio State's new offensive coordinator.
We'll get your thoughts on Jim Kelly later.
Yeah, he was the old offensive coordinator for Washington. he's now the Washington. Oh, okay. I did not know that. I have my friend Jonathan right now telling me where he's where he's going to. So I did
he
not
was
know
UCLA. He was UCLA's head coach, and now he's offensive coordinator for Ohio State.
Oh yeah, that's right. The way you sounded, like I thought it was the old Notre Dame coach.
Okay,
but not with the USC.
There you go.
Yeah, not Ty Willingham.
You mean the old Cincinnati coach, Brian Kelly?
Yeah. I just know that UCLA was looking, and they were looking at PJ for a while. They think that was one of their number one guys that they were going for.
Yes.
And he just basically said, "No, I'm staying at Minnesota," and I don't blame him. I don't blame him because UCLA, like Minnesota, it's a yo-yo program. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. You don't know where it's going to go. And they've been like that since both of them have been like that since like the 60s, basically.
Well, it feels like a lateral move, like going from Minnesota to UCLA. I don't see. I mean, if you leave Minnesota, it's got to be something like a Michigan or Ohio State or an Oregon or Washington or maybe like a Florida or something like that. But like UCLA, I mean, that place has no home field advantage. They're cheap. They're so cheap they make Mr. Krabs look like a freaking angel.
You're really on a SpongeBob
How far
theme
is
today,
the Rose
Jackson.
Bowl? How far is the Rose Bowl from campus? Does anyone know? I mean, it's not exactly very close.
I think it's at least 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Okay.
And that's about an hour and a half with LA traffic.
Okay.
It's just not good to where UCLA is going right now. I mean, that place is a fate worse than hell. They showed that against Arizona 2 years ago. They showed that against Arizona State last year. And who knows what's going to be like this year. It's not a bright future. I wish them nothing but awesomeness because they're going to need it.
If they had the right administrative support and the right fundraising, it'd be a great job. I mean, you're in such a premium location there. You've got so many talented kids there, so much money to develop around there. You've got. I mean, it wouldn't be very difficult to recruit kids to Westwood, California. Trust me, you get anyone out there, they're going to be impressed with the scenery and everything. They're get young 17, 18 years olds. They're going to love it. But it's just, I mean, the university doesn't really seem invested in really building up, doing what it takes to build a football program.
I mean, North Fork, where the Rifleman lives, is a lot better than UCLA right now. It is a lot better. I'd rather go to North Fork, New Mexico than UCLA.
Deshaun Foster apparently was cheered by the players and by some of the fans, but then you hear some of the writers were like, "Why?" And so there was this weird dynamic. It kind of reminded me of when Freddie Kitchens was hired at the Cleveland Browns, and you had the players who were like really happy about it, but then we found out why people were worried about it as we got through the season and saw the play calling and everything. So is this another Freddie Kitchens, or is this gonna work out, you think?
I don't know. I mean, generally moves like this don't tend to work out. I mean, people, the popular guy who doesn't really have the credentials, who the more educated people are more skeptical of it. I remember this is similar to the Bobby Williams situation at Michigan State. He was when Saban left to go to LSU and famously sent a jetliner back, offering all assistant coaches a position at LSU, and it returned empty. They all decided to stay with Bobby Williams. The players held a demonstration on the lawn of the university president, saying we want Bobby Williams as our next head coach. Bobby Williams was the next head coach and lasted about 4 years, 4 pretty mediocre, disappointing seasons, and he was gone. So, sometimes
at least he had clock age.
Sometimes emotions can really can lead you astray. For sure.
Looks like a 5-year contract. And according to the athletic director, Martin Jarmond, he said that they went under a comprehensive search, but that Deshaun resonated from the start and throughout the whole process, and then goes into the, we wanted somebody with integrity, energy, passion, enthusiasm unknown to mankind. Oh wait, that's
all the buzzwords.
All the buzzwords.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah,
maybe
this is more accurate. There you go. There you go. BB nailed it.
I don't know.
Oh man, it's just so terrible what is going on at that athletic department at UCLA. And it's like the chat's saying, they're not investing in their football program enough, and it's obvious they're not investing enough in their athletics. So what they're going to have to do is find somebody that will spend money on UCLA athletics and tell Martin Jarmond, hey, you got to go. You couldn't read the room of this whole Chip Kelly situation. We're going to find somebody who will read the room.
Yeah. I actually do think that given how little Chip Kelly liked to recruit, there actually is a case to be made that this will improve recruiting, because at least this guy seems to be excited about recruiting and want to do it, whereas Chip Kelly was like, I just want to focus on X's and O's, and now we can do that. Now everybody wins, right? Chip Kelly can focus on X's and O's and apparently quarterback coaching. Deshaun Foster can take over UCLA and recruit and compete in the Big Ten. So we'll see, man. I mean, there could be room at the top, or there could be room with Indiana. I mean, and I'm thinking more the second one right now. But,
Jeffrey's optimistic that Indiana can win in the Rose Bowl this year.
Oh yeah. Oh, good for Jeff. I mean, look, you've got to aim.
Oh, the Indiana UCLA game. My bad. Mm-hmm. For September 14th. I wonder if that game will be on CBS. That'd be
probably
cool.
Peacock.
Oh, don't do that to Indiana UCLA. Don't do that.
These dedicated Peacock games, man. It's for the birds.
Well, why not?
Watch.
Indiana UCLA those are probably two of the bottom 4 teams.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
5 teams.
But I mean, Kurt Sidnetti and Indiana kind of feels like we'll be watching the next edition of Matt Campbell and Lance Leopold for the next few years at Bloomington.
Well, UCLA, we'll watch them closely, and we'll have, and I'm sure a future week we'll have a UCLA guest on, but kind of looking at Michigan's moves, and we'll focus a lot more on this tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Michigan Wolverines Live, where we are actually bringing on the editor or writer at Ravenswire, who's going to be on to give the Ravens perspective on the Wink Martindale hire. Obviously, given the fact that he came from the Ravens, it helped to really build that defensive system up, and then spent some time at the Giants. And now today, defensive line coach Greg Scruggs, who they got from Wisconsin. So Sharon Moore and now Wink Martindale making some moves on defense. It's starting. So could this mean things are coming together a little bit for the defense? Maybe the holes are starting to be plugged.
I mean, like, I don't know, Wink. Like, I know he runs the same system, but like, I just was kind of unimpressed with the job he did with the Giants. I expected them to be a bit better this year, but I mean, I know it's a different level, but I kind of would want someone more exciting and more recruiting to help bring Michigan's recruiting up a bit. But I don't think the defense will make a major step down, but I felt like they could have made a little more exciting hire. But I think Michigan's defense will be good.
Big deal pulling Greg Scruggs, a Cincinnati native who has been with Luke Fickell for the past like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
over from Wisconsin. They developed some good D linemen at Cincinnati when he was there. Last year was a bit of remember Curtis Brooks and Majay Sanders terrorizing backfields back then. But young, good coaching hire comes from a good tree, I think. So we'll see.
The key was the recruiting aspect, because Wink Martindale is obviously he's 20 years removed from his last college job at Western Kentucky, where he coached under Jack Harbaugh. So he's a little bit removed from recruiting. It's been 20 years. So bringing in people like Greg Scruggs, who have been hitting the trail and have actually been pretty effective, they need to keep doing that and bring more people in like this hire, I think.
Well, I got a feeling it's going to be great seeing how this works out. And, I hope that Wink Martindale does all right at Michigan. He probably will. But the con is the last time he coached in college football was the dark ages with no social media, no YouTube, no Twitter, no Instagram.
Well, and if anything else, I know Michigan really aimed to keep as much of the current culture together as possible, and that's been difficult with some of the coaching losses they've had, and obviously losing a lot of players as well. But this should help. This should definitely help stem the bleeding. That if Sharon had to have a much bigger philosophy shift, it would have put a lot more pressure on him. So now he doesn't have to worry about the defensive side of the ball at all. He knows that the last two coordinators learned under this guy, so it should be a fairly smooth transition. So
just a reminder that tomorrow night, Michigan Wolverines Live, 8 p.m. Eastern, with Kevin Ostrichter. I'll have to get his last name pronounced. And then he's at Ravenswire. He writes for Ravenswire as well as does the Locked On Ravens cast. So we're going to be getting his perspective, from obviously covering the Ravens and covering Wink Martindale for quite a few years. I think that'll be interesting for people, to hear a different perspective on Michigan Wolverines Live.
And John, I didn't want to ask one. John, didn't want to ask one thing. I know Michigan hasn't lost much didn't lose really anything significant in the portal through Harbaugh leaving. Are you concerned at all about that after spring practice? Is there a potential, a few guys that you think might be on the fence about leaving?
Yeah. So we just heard from Tanner Wooten, who was on with Mark on the last show. And he was talking about how Michigan the last month has raised quite a bit of money under the Champions Circle NIL program. And maybe winning a natty and winning playoff games helps with that a little, but it seems like that they've been able to keep the players in the boat for now. A Shroud says it perfectly down here. As long as we don't lose Mason Graham or Will Johnson, and I'm going to add Kenneth Grant to that. As long as you don't lose those three, that's the key. Like keep and it sounds like Wink Martindale, and the staff that we've seen have been able to, at least for now, keep the ship afloat there. But again, we'll have to get to monitor it. I think there will be some flow out, especially people who are struggling for playing time. That's key. And anybody who is really, really close with Klingscale or Elston, that might be a concern as well.
One of the good things is that they can't transfer to the Chargers.
That would be right there at the top of my concern list if they could do that. Then,
so if they would have gone to like Miami or something, that might be a little bit. Or the University of Miami, not the Dolphins. Another college job.
Well, there you have it. So here's where we're gonna kind of wrap things up early tonight. I do want to remind everybody that at 11 p.m. Eastern tonight, 8 p.m. Pacific, friend of the program, Matt Zemek, who stopped by today, as well as Tim Prangley and Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, will be doing Trojan Conquest Live, which is every Monday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. You always learn something from that show. So check it out. I'll be there and go support them. But we're at that point.
Is Tim going to be on the Trojans Conquest?
He's
Well, he apparently he's a little under the weather, but hopefully he can join. If not, it'll be Matt and Mark Rogers.
If he shows up on that, then he big timed you terribly, and I am never going to let him forget.
We'll see. I'll be watching either way. So we'll make that happen. But anyway, so final thought and where can people find you? And we'll start off with Sean.
Guys, nothing much to report on. Typical, just February week here. But another crazy weekend, the wildest offseason I can remember in Ohio State history. We lose one former NFL head coach as an offensive coordinator 3 weeks after we hired him, and then we get another one. I don't know if that has. I'm certain that has never happened before, and it probably will never happen again. That set of circumstances, but again, everything looks great. 2024 should be the number one team in the country, and I'm just excited. Spring football is just really a few weeks away. It's pretty close, right?
Spring is here,
right, John? It starts like second week of March, around that point.
Something like that, and you do have there will be football on because you've got the what's it called now, Jackson, the UFL or
United Football League. Yep, the merger between the USFL and the XFL.
So there you go. We'll have football to watch. Go Panthers!
Mm-hmm. I guess go Stallions. But I'm just still kind of waiting it out for the real thing, college football and NFL. Just waiting like a puppy dog, waiting for dinner.
There you have it.
Take care,
all right,
everyone.
Sean. We'll see you next time.
All right, Godspeed.
Absolutely. All right, next up we got Jackson.
Well, I'm 204 subs away from getting to 500. Thank you all, you guys. And tomorrow night I'm going to be doing episode 27 of the Jacksonian with the host of the Big Ten Huddle, JR, as we'll be
Hey!
discussing. There we go, JR.
It's all coming full circle.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be awesome. We'll be discussing our take on the Chip Kelly news, the UCLA coaching carousel, the Big Ten bubble watch. Can Purdue win it all, or will they just fall apart again in the postseason? Are they the Nets 2019 Virginia? That's the question all of you will have to decide for yourself. And it will be released on YouTube and on X. And believe me, it's going to be a wild one. And I'll tell you, John, I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow's edition of Wolverines Live. I may not be able to watch all of it because I'll be filming Jack Sewing episode 27.
Okay.
But I'll be doing my best, making sure everybody knows about the latest Wolverines Live. And also, Will and I have a college basketball recap preview show every Friday. And well, I've been thinking about like Gonzaga. It's like they got that. They had that gift from the basketball gods, and they took advantage of it. And we will be discussing more.
And John
on
Calipari on the hot seat. Calipari.
Ooh, that's a good question. Will he be? Will he get that vote of confidence, or is the Hall of Fame status enough to overlook it? Stay tuned to find out. It's going to be a wild one from Will and I. It's going to be awesome. So stay tuned.
Well, there you go. So everybody check out Jackson on all the various places. He's got it all right here. And Jackson just modeled for us the top 25 that actually makes sense mug.
Well, and also if you want to get that special little something for your sweetheart this Valentine's Day, go to the Voice of College Football merchandise store where you can go on Quality Network merchandise /t-shirt clutch /Mark Rogers, where you can get the best merch out there, especially Valentine's Day gifts that actually matter.
There you go. For the college football fan in your life.
Yep, that's right. And everyone, y'all stay safe and stay warm. It is cold out.
Thanks, Jackson. All right. Last but certainly not least, Will ND. Final thought, where can people find you?
Well, I'm a little sad that I didn't know that safeties coach Chris O'Leary had a strong relationship with Jesse Minter. So he will be going to the Chargers. So that's a loss. Who isn't
going to the Chargers? I swear to God.
But the hope that many Irish fans have is that Mike Mickens, who's done an awesome job coaching up the corners, will become the defensive backs coach. Okay. And that grad assistant, Max Bullock, that a lot of people think has been doing a great job with the linebackers, will be promoted to linebackers coach. And then Al Golden can just be the defensive coordinator, so he can kind of spend time with all the position groups. So that's the hope that we're hoping that Marcus will make that decision. And he hasn't been recruiting as well as the other coaches, but he did do a great job developing players. So hopefully we'll be still be doing okay with safety, as D-Rock agrees that Mickens should be the DB coach. So yeah, I'm still excited for the season. Recruiting's been going well. You got Plaxico Burris on board. Exciting. And yeah.
There you go. D-Rock Irish will be fine. Oh, Will, I'm losing you. You there? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I crapped out again. Dang it. It was going well. It was going well during the show.
You really were. Well, Jackson has put all your links in here. Because he's like I said, marketer extraordinaire, double J. So check out Will at all of these places.
Yeah. Elijah Burris just committed, as I was saying, as my connection was crapping out. Plexico's son. So he was we got on him. So he committed early, so he's not rated yet, but I think he'll be at least a 4-star once his senior season's done. So excited for that commitment.
Not bad, Elijah Burris. Yeah, that's a great pickup. So
yeah, and they've been interviewing the new players on YouTube. Like every player gets interviewed multiple times on the Notre Dame YouTube channel. So I always like to get to know the players. So it's cool getting to see the players, getting to see Riley Leonard talk for the first time. So it's fun.
Well, Will, we always appreciate your support and stopping by and being part of the Ocho. So we'll encourage everybody to support Will and all the things that he does. And Will, we will see you. We'll see you around soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Will. Okay, and of course we've got our buddy D4 stopping by. Appreciate you for coming by here. We do have a super chat. Thank you. We got Minnesota Dave. Sorry guys, I did not know that my phone crapped out. Don't worry about it, Minnesota Dave. We appreciate that you stopped by. We appreciated that you were on the panel, and we appreciate the financial contribution. So we appreciate that a lot. Let's see. What is Clink doing on the Chargers then? I honestly don't know. Okay, so I've really thought about this a lot. I'm like, why are Clink and Elston both leaving? Why is Ben Herbert leaving? Why would they go when they would probably have more power and more of ability to influence culture at Michigan? Well, I think part of it is loyalty to Harbaugh for some of these people. Part of it, is weather, and obviously much nicer over there. I mean, those of us who have lived in Ann Arbor know it gets extremely cold. You got to buy yourself some thermals, and all that kind of stuff to warm up. Meanwhile, you can go chill out in California. That's probably part of it. Also, work-life balance. So if you think about it, they don't have to recruit, which means they can spend a lot more time with their families. And, family is important to most of the Michigan, pretty much all the Michigan coaches. Their whole thing was, faith and family and football. And so, I think that appealed to them. And so they get to keep working under Harbaugh, who they like, and they get to start molding the Chargers into Michigan West. I mean, do I think all the moves made sense? No. I do agree with this. Don't say you're going to stay and then rush out the door. Don't do that. I agree. That was a bit of a weird move that he made, because he literally said, "I'm not leaving." I mean, it was like a Wolf of Wall Street, scene or something, and then change his mind. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow, because we are going to have on Michigan Wolverines Live at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will have Kevin Ostreicher. I will confer with him on the last name. He runs so he writes for Ravens Wire. He also does Locked On Ravens. He's going to be joining us to give the perspective of the Ravens side, because of Wink Martindale, having coached there for many years. Really want to hear a different perspective than we sometimes hear. We love our Michigan guests. We really do. I just thought it might be fun to change it up and get a Ravens perspective this week. So we'll have Kevin on, and we can talk about some of these coaching moves, and we can talk about can Michigan continue to excel at the highest level? And maybe the Chargers up the money. I mean, that's very, very possibly what happened. They've got money. And look, Jim Harbaugh probably negotiated a crap load of money for his assistants. That's a big deal to him, is money for his assistants. So that Jim Harbaugh didn't take that job without negotiating a lot of money for his assistant pool. So I think that was part of it, because he probably even said, "I'll take, a couple million less of my, if I can give it to if I can get better assistance, or entice them with more money, etc." And it seems to be successful, because he's brought on Ben Herbert, he's brought on Clinkscale, he's brought on Elston, and now obviously the Notre Dame coach. So that's huge, and I think they'll continue to pull coaches in. Maybe Jim Harbaugh will pull some in from his own tree and his own previous stops. I'm actually surprised Pep Hamilton hasn't joined this party yet. Pretty shocked about that. So you might see that at some point. Pep Hamilton or another joining the party in some capacity. But we will we'll be watching it. Final thoughts here. Obviously, sponsor the Voice of College Football, MarkRogersTV at gmail.com. Use the Amazon link when you're doing your shopping on Amazon anyway. You might as well. Today we did have Matt Zemek. So rewind if you missed it, the first half hour. We had Matt Zemek on talking USC football. So go check that out. And then please support them with the show that's coming up at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, Trojan Conquest Live. And check that out. Go give them the like. I'm even going to put the link here, so there's no excuses. No excuse, right? Just click that link and give them a like. Get them started. Get them fired up, right? Get them going. And there's the link right there to Trojan Conquest Live to go over and support those guys. Please bring more people next time. I'm going to just openly say this. If we continue with this viewership, we are not continuing the Ocho. So I need every single one of you who's watching or who listens to this video later to bookmark 8 p.m. Eastern on Mondays, to send this link to a friend, ideally a bunch of friends. Put the link on Discord chat. Let people know that it's happening. Jackson Johnson does a great job of that. I need a bunch of you to do that, right? Because obviously that brings people in. Then more people can hit the like button. More people can subscribe and hit the bell and all of that good stuff. So not to sound the alarm, but I am just going to openly, because I never hide things from you guys. Like, if this is the viewership, we're not continuing. So I need everybody to for the next show that we do, which will probably be 2 Mondays from now, because next Monday I am going to be out. Let's really get this next show rolling. And until next time, my name's John D'Adamo. Definitely follow me on all the different platforms, Twitter, etc., at John D'Adamo, and we'll continue this. And I will see you all tomorrow for Michigan Wolverines Live. Until next time, as always, go blue. See you around. Oh, and don't forget, since it's USC week, let's get Reggie as Heisman. Let's do it. All right, everybody. Go blue and see you next time.